You eat today, you drink today, good. My name is Ian Breezy. I hope you're doing well, and we are taking a quick break from fighting games to head back to Marvel Rivals. Today I have for you some more Marvel characters that I think would be weird, cool, and fun to see hit the game. I did this once before, and I will go ahead and leave the video in the description. And while you're down there, be sure to like and subscribe. It would be so sweet of you. And with all the preamble out the way, let's get to our first character. We're gonna start off with my personal favorite parts of the Marvel Universe, the symbiotes, with Scorn. When not bonded with her symbiote day by day, she is a clinical psychiatrist known as Tanis Reeves. Tanis was working at Ravencroft. For those of you that don't know, Ravencroft is kind of like the Arkham Asylum for Marvel. Here she was working with the supervillain drug dealer known as Shriek. Coming from a super abusive household, Shriek's mental already wasn't the best, but it only worsened when she had a run-in with Cloak and Dagger on a drug deal where she was stuck in Cloak's dark dimension. Being here caused her to mentally break and also gave her soundwave manipulation powers. She is also the partner in crime and partner in life for Carnage. Now as a fellow monster fucker, I think that's based as fuck, but Shriek probably isn't the easiest case to deal with when you're Miss Neves. And she found out the hard way when she lost her arm trying to figure out what the facility was doing to Shriek. That's okay though, kinda, when her arm was replaced with the prosthetic made of the Carnage symbiote. The symbiote heavily fucked with Tanis' mind and influenced her to go find the true host of Carnage. Once the symbiote's quest was complete, it left a little parting gift for her in the form of a spawn. That spawn would then fuse into what's left of her prosthetic, and after a quick second of Shriek stealing it, Neves would get it back and form into what we know as Scorn. Now what makes Scorn different from like Venom, Carnage, Scream, all of them, is that she is just as much a machine as she is a symbiote. Basically, if you threw your standard symbiote in a blender with the T-1000, Cyborg, and Upgrade from Ben 10, you'd get them. They can hack, they can upgrade, they can fuse with different weapons that she sees, all that sort of stuff. It's gonna be hard to make somebody that carries a big ass gun like that around not a duelist. For her primary fire, she can have a Mega Man styled arm cannon that does small burst damage like Squirrel Girl, and she can also charge it up for one big direct shot. To their special abilities, they can have something similar to Ed's Super 2 from Street Fighter 6, where they fire out a slow-moving shot that does damage over time, but this one can also draw in enemies when it gets close to them. This could be good for those moments when you're trying your best to secure a kill, but they're able to get away with just one health. They can have a grenade launcher that shoots out stun mines that stick to the ground. When an enemy steps on one, they could be slightly damaged and slowed. And I don't want to give them a sort of Sombra-like hacking ability, but yeah, I do kind of want to. So they can shoot out a wire that once it comes in contact with an enemy, everything but their primary fire and passives are unavailable for a short amount of time. Now finally for their ult, honestly I just want to turn them into a big ass gun. Like 1 second normal symbiote body, and then boom, giant fucking laser. Can even have it be like Cyclops' optic blast where you can control where it's moving as you're shooting it. Now that we're finishing up with Scorn, since they took us to the more technological side of Marvel, let's go ahead to the spiritual side with Spirit Rider. The Spirit Rider, aka Kushala, was a member of the Apache tribe back in the 1800s. She lived a normal, modest life until the day that the US Army invaded and killed her entire family. Filled with pure hate and rage and disdain, she prayed for divine fury to strike those who wronged her family, and she got just that when she was possessed by the spirit of vengeance. Now, being turned into a flaming skull demon is a bit more than she asked for, so she spends her life trying to learn different forms of magic to understand what has possessed her. With the help of a tongue of a woman known as Auntie Jessa, she would be able to learn what exactly the spirit of vengeance is, and with some time, be able to control it. She would go on to learn a bunch of new forms of magic, ending up with her being such a skilled master of the mystic arts that she would become the Sorcerer Supreme. Ain't that cool as fuck? I mean, oh my god, she's like if Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider did a fusion dance. Then she'd go on to use her new skills and understanding of the spirit of vengeance to figure out how to exercise it from her body. And she'd get help by the man known as Merlin. Yes, that Merlin. Merlin would then go on to cut a deal with Kushala, telling her that he will help her exercise the spirit of vengeance from her body in exchange for joining a Sorcerer Supreme all-star team. And that pure concept alone is the dopest shit I've ever heard in my life. Now, playstyle wise, the first thought that came to my head was a duelist, but I'm pretty sure that Johnny Blaze or Robbie Reyes would beat her to the punch for being the first Ghost Rider in this game. And both of their most well-known skill sets are a bit more limited than Kushala's because they are not also a Sorcerer Supreme. So let's fuck around a bit and make her a strategist. Her main weapon's an axe, so let's have her control it all Jedi style by using magic to push it forward and attack enemies at a far range. That could be her primary fire, and for her secondary fire, she can take her axe in her hands, set it ablaze, and swing down with a big ol' over-the-head axe chop. For her main healing ability, she can shoot out some auto-tracking runes that can attach to her allies. With the runes, she can pick if she wants to heal with them or give a damage boost for her team. I'd say these come in a set number, sorta like the bubbles for Jeff. Next ability, we can have her jumping on her flaming horse and rushing through enemies and allies, causing a burst of healing for her teammates and damage over time for her opponents. And how about something weird and fun where we can have her set up a bigger rune than usual that acts as a ricochet wall, sorta acting like a mini Captain America shield, but she can set this up wherever she wants, like Doctor Strange's portal. Imagine a cool combo where Spirit Rider sets up her ricochet wall at a corner angle, and Iron Man is there right next to her with a maximum pulse, shooting it at the ricochet wall and having it come down on the enemy team for a team kill. Of course, you gotta balance something like that by doing something like giving the ricochet wall low health or making the cooldown time take forever, but nonetheless, I think it sounds cool. And for her ult, we can have her summon out the spirit of vengeance that she spent her whole life trying to exercise. Leviathan come out and attack the enemy team like a frenzy. Oh yeah, there's team up abilities too, so we can give Kushala one with Doctor Strange and Magic the other two Sorcerer Supremes. Maybe powering up Doctor Strange's burst attack and Magic's magic slash. Now we go from the more mystical side of Marvel to the more scientific side with Nightshade. AKA Tilda Johnson grew up in Harlem without a dime to her name. Not wanting to die broke, she turned to a life of crime and she was pretty damn successful at it. That is thanks to her being an absolute genius when it comes to all things mechanical and scientific. By the time she was 16, she already had 3 different PhDs in genetics, cybernetics, and physics. Even with all that knowledge in all those fields, she ended up being drawn the most to biochemistry. This fascination with biochemistry would give her an obsession with turning people into fucking werewolves. Holy shit. That's fucking amazing. I love this shit, man. Have you wondered about the time when Captain America was turned into a werewolf? Or when Falcon was turned into a werewolf? Or when the Falcon, who became Captain America, was then turned into a werewolf? Well, it was her. That is right, at one point Nightshade even controlled a whole cult of werewolves. Eventually though, she'll go from causing crime to stopping crime when she becomes a resistance leader against Hydra taking over America, which definitely doesn't mirror any real world things happening right now, when she takes up the mantle of Nighthawk from her fallen comrade. But for her gameplay, I want to focus on her being Nightshade because 1, she's one of Captain America's best villains, 2, she's most well known as being Nightshade, and 3, throwing fucking werewolves at people is so goddamn amazing and hilarious, I need that shit. And with a moveset idea like that, the most obvious thing we can make her is a duelist. Since she is a scientist, we can have her throwing out different chemical concoctions as her primary. And for a passive, maybe once she's knocked down to like a 1/5 of her health, she can teleport in a werewolf to be a meat shield for her. Not really attacking or anything, just appearing in the spot where Nightshade's health was knocked down to a 1/5 and being there to shield her from the rest of the enemies. Getting to her special abilities, we can have her shoot out a werewolf to do a claw strike through her enemies. This one will go away as soon as it does its attack, but then we can have another ability where she can summon in up to 2 werewolves at a time in a fixed area to attack anyone that comes within their space. We can also tie this to another ability where the werewolves can howl, boosting their attacks. And finally, we can give Nightshade her Mesmer Dust that she uses to hypnotize people, but in the game, it will just give a momentary stun. And now getting to her ult, we can pull inspiration from Strider Hiryu's Ragnarok from Marvel vs. Capcom. If you can't tell by my references, this channel is about fighting games, where Nightshade can teleport in 3 new werewolves to go crazy and blitz through the enemy team. And if she's already got out those 2 werewolves from the past ability I mentioned, they can join into the frenzy to boost the damage. And that is what we have for Nightshade. Now moving on to the mutant side of Marvel with Tag. Now Tag, day by day known as Brian Cruz, is a Puerto Rican born mutant who, for a breath of fresh air, is actually from a mutant-friendly household. His mother was super supportive of him and stood by his side when he first figured out he had mutant powers in school. While in school, he noticed this weird sensation where everyone had this innate feeling to stay away from him subconsciously. This ended up being his mutant ability, and for all the mutant powers I've heard of, this one is on the most JoJo type shit. Essentially, his powers work like a game of tag, thus the name. He's a specific kind of psychic where he touches someone to make them it. Once someone is it, there will be a telepathic effect cast on everyone around them that will either repel them away from the person that's it or bring them towards someone that is it. Once Brian understood what he was, him and his family would move to America so he could enroll in the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Once he enrolled, he was taken under the wing of the character that is probably going to complete Marvel Rivals' trilogy of blonde white women in white outfits, Emma Frost. Brian would then go on to join her squad known as the Hellions. Now with his abilities, if tweaked a little, I think he can make a cool but tricky strategist. Now I have no idea how good or bad this would be, but I would have his entire kit be built around playing a game of tag with the enemy team and his allies. First, I'd have him be the fastest character in the game. Then I'll just give him the standard punch kick primary attack. His healing ability will be holding his hand out for a duration of time, and while he has his hand out, everyone that gets touched by it will be healed. Now on to what makes Tag Tag. We can give him a set of special abilities where he sticks his arm out and does a dash forward. For the ability where he touches his teammates, they'll receive a damage boost, as well as all incoming damage will be reduced. For when he dashes up and touches an enemy, they will have their damage output reduced, and all incoming damage towards them will be increased. And of course, there'd have to be some conditions. For one, he'd have to stay in range of the person that he tags. Condition number 2, if he receives a certain amount of damage, or if the time limit runs out, the tag will wear off. And condition number 3, this will only affect one ally or one enemy at a time. So if you're playing as Tag and go up to tag someone on the enemy team and make them it, they will have to tag you back, aka take your ass out, to get rid of the effect. Of course, he'll need a little something to make it easier to maneuver around. That's why I'd make him the fastest, you know, until like Makari or Quicksilver comes out, to make taking out an enemy tag a little trickier. In addition to this, we'll also give him a sort of juke ability. And to wrap things up with his ult, we can just make it where he can tag as many people as he can see in a set amount of time. Now the last character I got for you today is the oldest one I'll be talking about. It is the Hulk. No, not that Hulk, or that Hulk, or that Hulk. No, I'm talking about the original Hulk, Zemu. That's right, before the name Hulk was ever given to Bruce Banner's alter ego, it first belonged to this intergalactic criminal. Zemu is a giant Yeti-like alien who was locked up on an exiled prison planet. He wasn't having that though, so he staged a prison break by stealing an unmanned supply ship. He tried to escape to his home planet, but the fuel in the supply ship couldn't take him that far, so he ended up crash landing on Earth. The crash site was then found by this random electrician named Joe Harper. Joe would then do his best to help Zemu recover from the crash. And to thank him, Zemu used his mind control powers on him, as well as used his mind control powers on the entire fucking human population and forced them all to rebuild his ship so he can make it back home. Zemu then said, "You know what, Joe, since you were so cool enough to help me out, I'll go ahead and free you from the mind control and bring you along to my home planet with me." But Joe rightfully thought, yeah, fuck that guy, and used his skills as an electrician to sabotage his ship as he tried to depart. The sabotaged ship would then go on to electrocute Zemu and free the Earth from his mind control, as well as making them forget him, except for Joe. Zemu would then come back to Earth a few times, not only fucking with Joe, but also the Hulk family, having run-ins with She-Hulk, Hulk, and even Amadeus Cho. But now, onto how he'd play. And for a character that has been at times bigger than the most famous Hulk, he has to be a tank. Since you can't have a guy as big as that not have super strength, we're gonna have his primary just be him throwing haymakers with his giant fist. For his special abilities, I'm gonna be real with you, they're gonna be all over the place because his powers are just fucking weird. Starting off with his telekinesis, we can give him a sort of force push where he can move enemies to the left or to the right. This can be for when you're really trying to pressure someone, but their teammates just keep getting in the way. Next, he can pretty much cast gaseous form on himself, so we'll give him the ability to turn into a big gas cloud. This can make him invulnerable for a set amount of time and also give him some armor. Next, he has the ability to power himself up by turning people into Zemu zombies by eating them, so we could give him a grab move where he wraps his arms around an enemy, pulls them in, gnaws on them for a little bit, and then spits them out. While he's chewing, he will do damage as well as gain back health. Now to end things with his ult, since he is known for his hypnosis, I will give him something similar to Doctor Strange's ult. But where the Eye of Agamotto is a burst AoE, Zemu's will be a big cone-shaped psionic beam. Now this one can be dodged just by going around Zemu, unlike Strange's, but Zemu's will be able to go much, much farther. Now there you have it, 5 more lesser known Marvel characters who would be weirder fun pools to put in Marvel Rivals. If you like any of these characters, feel free to leave a comment. If you have any characters you'd want to see added to Marvel Rivals, feel free to leave a comment. And if I got any facts wrong about these characters, feel free to leave a comment. Just try your best not to be an asshole about it. Alright? If you want to support me, you can go ahead and follow me on Blue Sky. And if you're in the mood to support me further and make these videos better, you can go ahead and donate to my Ko-fi, as well as commission me to make some art for you, and you can find out the details on my website. All that info can be found down below, and while you're down there, go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that bell if you're feeling so kind. But with all that being said, I know times are tough, but you'll get through it. I've been Hyena Breezy, I was here, and I did the best I can. Later.
I know that you'll be back.